Nile to Nebo, the life story of Moses. Part 2, All Change. Living in the royal palace, Moses became a strong, well-educated young man with a bright future as an Egyptian prince. But though he dressed like a noble Egyptian, inside he knew he was an Israelite, part of God's people. And what bothered him most was the way that the Egyptians badly treated his people, the Israelites. For many years they had been slaves, enduring hard labour under cruel, ruthless supervisors. One day, Moses saw for himself what was happening. He watched in horror as an Egyptian slave master viciously beat an Israelite slave. Moses was incensed, and checking that no one was looking, he struck the cruel Egyptian with such force that he killed him. Quickly, Moses buried the Egyptian's body in the sand. He was convinced that no one else had seen what had happened. The very next day, Moses was again out walking, and he was surprised to see another fight taking place. But this time it was between two Israelite men, and one of them was viciously beating the daylights out of the other. "Hey!" shouted Moses. "Why are you hitting one of your own countrymen?" The man replied, Why should I take any notice of you? Who's given you authority over us? Are you thinking of killing me like you killed the Egyptian yesterday?" That stunned Moses. He became terrified and thought to himself, "Oh no, I killed a man and now it's become known among the people." And it wasn't long before the king, Pharaoh, heard about the incident, and he got very angry. He wanted Moses punished by death for killing the Egyptian slave master. However, they could not find Moses. They searched for him throughout the palace, but could not find him, because Moses had made a hasty escape, not just from the palace, but far, far away from Egypt, to a country called Midian. Can you imagine how he felt? Frightened of being caught, maybe? Angry of himself for killing the man? Worried about what would happen to him now? And probably very sad about having to leave the palace and all the luxuries behind. One day, Moses was resting near a well in Midian when 7 young women approached. Moses watched as they prepared to draw water and fill troughs to supply the flock of sheep that was also nearby. Suddenly some nasty shepherds appeared and started shouting at the women and pushed them out of the way. Seeing what was happening, Moses got up and ran across and stood up to the shepherds and told them to clear off. Kindly Moses then helped the young women to draw all the water they needed. The 7 young women were sisters, and when they got back home, their father said, "Hello, you're back early today. Why is that?" And they replied, "Well, we were helped by a foreigner, an Egyptian man, we think. He made sure we weren't hindered by the other shepherds, and he even helped us to draw water for all of our flock." "Well, where is he?" questioned the father. "Didn't you invite him back here for a meal?" So the ladies went back to the well, and there they found Moses and invited him to come home with them. Moses not only enjoyed a very welcome meal, but he stayed with that kind family. Later on, he married one of the sisters, a lady called Zipporah. And then they had their first children together. He was given the job of helping to look after his father-in-law's sheep. And it wasn't easy to find pasture for the sheep, so sometimes Moses travelled many miles to make sure that the flock had sufficient to eat. One day, when he was a long way from home, Moses suddenly stopped in his tracks. He saw something very strange. A bush was burning fiercely, and yet it wasn't being destroyed. None of the branches were becoming blackened or charred. And feeling a little scared, he moved closer to investigate. Then something even more weird happened. The bush called out his name. Moses! Moses! Moses, thinking he might be dreaming, swallowed hard and talked back to the bush. Yes, that's me. The bush spoke some more. Don't come any closer. Take off your sandals, for this is holy ground. Then the voice from the bush introduced himself. I am God, the God your father worshipped, the God of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. At this, Moses covered his eyes. He was afraid to look, knowing that it was God right there in the bush. But Moses listened carefully as God continued telling him that he had been fully aware of the many, many years of suffering that the Israelites had endured under the cruel domination of the Egyptians. God said, I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. God continued to explain that now was time to act. A rescue would be put into effect, not only to release God's people from slavery, but also to bring them into a new country, one that would meet all their needs, one that would be a great place to live. And you, Moses, continued God, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Well, what? Me? Stuttered Moses. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? I will be with you, replied God. Moses tried to make any excuse he could think of and said, Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, The God of your forefathers sent me, and they say, What is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, Yahweh, meaning, I am who I am. Say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you, because this is my name forever. Moses made another excuse. But what if they don't believe me? The Lord said, I will show my power with great miracles. Then, to demonstrate one example, he told Moses to throw his big stick to the ground. Moses did as he was told, and then backed away quickly, because the wooden stick had turned into a wriggling snake. God said, Pick it up by its tail. Moses very gingerly reached down his hand, taking great care to keep it away from the snake's mouth, and grabbed its tail. And immediately it changed back into his stick. Wow, thought Moses. Then he made yet another excuse. But that doesn't help me speak. I'm not very good with words. And then he said, Oh Lord, please, please send someone else to do it. The voice from the bush got louder. Moses, haven't I promised to be with you? I will help you speak. And besides, your brother Aaron speaks well. He will speak for you. Now, off you go, and take your stick with you so that you can perform miracles with it." So Moses, with his wife, set off back to Egypt and met his brother on the way. They made an appointment to meet the new king. They said to the king, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go, so that we may leave Egypt and worship our God." The king looked very stern. Moses and Aaron waited anxiously for his reply, and we'll have to wait until next week to discover what the reply was.